the question was, did we take into account future buildings when doing the view quarters? And the answer is yes, for the Lakeshore East. And then for Blue Cross Blue Shield, which is scheduled to go taller, we hadn't really taken any viewpoints over the top of that building, so it should be the same. Thank you. Yes?
Based on the individual nature of every floor and every window, how much did that add to the basic cost of the building?
How much cost did it add to do the variety versus repetition? The good news about that was that actually, in the very beginning, I presented like 3 different concepts to the developer. 2 other ones not seen here, which I might use on a future building maybe. So, but with this building, he immediately, this is Jim Lowenberg, he immediately saw the constructability of this design, and that all you would have to do is build the floor plate out 12 feet all the way around, and then vary the form liner to cut off to create the curve. So it's really, in a way, that amount of variety is not that costly. Plus the fact that the glass is spanning only between the floor plates instead of moving in front of it. That's a less expensive way to do the window wall. So we had some things that were able to offset any of the variety costs. Yes?
Did your migrating bird theory come into any of this?
The migrating bird theory. Yes, you saw those curtains that I had on the building for a while. And the idea there was, you could actually modify your own climate of your terrace, but also during migration, the building could advertise and let people know when to pull those in front of the windows, because that would also help with the bird collisions. Although those are not going to actually happen in this building, so we're going to hope that the visual noise, instead of using a reflective glass, like a highly reflective glass, because of our balconies, we're able to use a clear low-E glass. And so that's better in terms of reducing the reflections of the sky that you see, and so hopefully that will also reduce. But we're working on glass that would actually be bird visible. So someday the glass itself would be visible for birds, but not people. Yes, in the back.
When is the building scheduled for completion, and what will the prices be?
Are there any of the marketing people here? And the schedule for completion in 2009. And then I think I'm not that familiar with all the pricing of units, but there's all different sizes, from studios to 4 bedrooms to big penthouses. So there's a wide range, I guess. Yes.
You showed only one structural plan in the presentation, but I'm wondering, is there anything beyond the physical surface of the skin on the exterior? Did you use any of those systems that you investigated on the interior of the building? So trying
Well, the interior of the units of this building, we're actually not doing the design of the units. But the structural strategy for this building, it's really considered an outrigger building. So let's see, I'll just go back a few here. This one. At the lower level, you have these really strong shear walls. As you go up in the plan, these drop out and become minimal. But at the point between the apartments and the condominiums, there's actually a concrete wall located on the outside, and that sends the forces out to the outrigger structure.
I guess what I was asking though is the idea, the concept of this. I mean, it seems more just exterior than anything new happening.
Structure. Yeah, with the structure, I mean, we're really working, trying to make it as stiff as possible. And, in a residential high-rise, it wouldn't be the same, like for example, a residential high-rise like the Spire building or something like that, it would be the same. There needs to be a kind of more straightforward, I guess, structural strategy as opposed to a twisted or some of the strategies that we saw in the building conference where the structure is actually twisting as well. Here, we really had a lot of cost constraints. So we were trying to find this place where we could invent within those cost constraints. But the structure is really, as an 80-story tower, I think to do structural innovation, we see that mostly happening in places like Dubai right now. I mean, within the constraints of Chicago, there isn't that capability or financial assets to do those kinds of new structures. But yes, it is in the sense that it's an 80-story tower. It's relatively conventional for an 80-story tower in terms of the strategy. A lot of it is about limiting the movement of the building at the top, because you actually start to feel the wind and the building moves, and you can actually create like a seasickness feeling if there's too much movement back and forth at the top of the building. So the stiffness of the structure is really what you're focusing on. Yes?
Your grounding in science and biology and so forth, was that at all part of your training and in terms of the staff that you hired? Do they have those sorts of degrees?
Yeah. Well, I started out really more interested in engineering when I first started school, and got hooked on architecture, I guess, pretty early on. But I've always been very interested in natural systems and nature science. One of the interns in the office actually was a biologist, and she was working on her PhD in biology and wanted to try out architecture. So we took her on for a while, and she's the one that found the information about the bird strikes, like during one of her brainstorming sessions. So it's like, I think it's really interesting that these ideas can come from all over in the way that I run my office. People are encouraged to contribute to the design and the ideas of the design. But I would say that almost all of the people that work in the office studied architecture, but we all have diverse interests. And the way being an architect requires you to have diverse interests, because you're always doing different buildings, and you have to each time get familiar with all the things that people that are going to use that building are interested in. For example, like a performing arts center, you really have to learn all about theater and the technical aspects of backstage and things like that. So in a way, we end up being kind of a jack of all trades.